If you're still tempted by the idea of that electric car and how much you'll save on petrol, you might want to stick around for a few minutes as we go through a long list of reasons why EVs are inconvenient, impractical and expensive, and will continue to be so for years if not decades to come. Electrification may eventually come to personal vehicles, but it will never be popular until or unless it's better than what we have at the moment with gas-fueled cars, and right now EVs fall way short. The only thing pushing EVs at the moment are governments, throwing billions of dollars of your money and mine to bribe people into buying one because of their cult-like pursuit of net zero. Nobody would buy one otherwise. Some evangelists recently commented that combustion car makers would be like Blockbuster, the now defunct video chain, forgetting of course that streaming and on-demand video are a vastly better experience than traipsing to the video store. We didn't need government incentives to ditch videos and adopt streaming. So without further ado, let's gallop through a list of 10 reasons plus one bonus why EVs are bad for your life, your health and your wallet. Welcome back to MGUY, British engineer and lawyer, now Sydney-based YouTuber. Be sure to follow me on the usual socials for more content, links in the description, and please make sure you're subscribed and have enabled all notifications so you don't miss out on any future videos. And if you'd like to support this channel, why not buy me a coffee? Click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen. Number 1. Purchase price. EVs are significantly more expensive than an equivalent gas car to purchase in the first place. Despite claims that they are simpler, just a battery and a motor, the battery is in fact incredibly complex and can make up half the value of the entire car. The new Porsche Macan EV costs 30% more than its petrol predecessor, so get one of those while you still can, as they're disappearing from Australia. The alternative is to buy second-hand, which is very cheap thanks to number 2, depreciation. EVs are the worst depreciating cars ever. Nobody wants to buy used EVs because how the previous owners treated the battery can have such a marked effect on its performance and lifespan. Charging too much, letting it discharge too much, allowing it to get too hot, too cold, too many fast charges can all affect the battery, and quite frankly, who'd want to take the risk when a replacement battery could be more than the entire value of the car? Plus, new EVs are being discounted so heavily that used values are sinking like a stone. Some of the luxury EVs have lost over half their value in just a few years. Unless you want to take the risk with a used EV or can swallow the catastrophic depreciation, avoid an EV. Number 3. Insurance. Insurance costs for EVs can be considerably higher than an equivalent gas car. It comes back to that battery again, as insurance companies are extremely nervous about putting a damaged battery back on the road, so it is easier and safer to simply total the car out. This isn't viable unless premiums are increased to cover it, hence they're more expensive. Also, parts are harder to get, and again, rather than let the car sit for months while spares are obtained, it's easier just to total it out and start again. Number 4. Maintenance. Despite claims that EVs are simpler, repairs can be more expensive, partly because of the availability of spare parts, but also because workshops frequently end up replacing entire subsystems because it is more cost-effective than diagnosing or repairing complex electronics. There are also far fewer workshops that will touch EVs, as the additional precautions and training that are required to work on high-voltage traction batteries and motors, which are extensive, are just not worth the effort for most mechanics. Number 5. Fueling convenience. Charging on the road is painful. Even fast chargers take 20 minutes at best. There are few of them, and you'll get half the range of a tank full of petrol or diesel, which takes 5 minutes from start to finish. Unlike regular fuel stations, EV charging stations operate on wafer-thin margins due to the high cost of electricity at the kind of power levels required, and many have already shut up shop. It's only government, i.e. taxpayer, money that is propping up EV charging points, and that money won't last forever. It will be decades before it gets even close to the convenience of a regular gas car. The fundamental charging conundrum states that you can either have fast charging or cheap charging. You can't have both. If you want insanely fast DC charging, you need insanely expensive electrical infrastructure to supply it, and insanely expensive electricity as well, especially when we're relying on farts and sunbeams for generation. Otherwise, it's slow charging. It's one or the other. Number 6. Charging at home. Lucky you if you have off-street parking where you can plug in your EV overnight. If you live in an apartment with underground parking or in a terrace house with on-street parking, good luck getting your car charged, at least safely and legally, that is. Draping cables across the path is not a solution. Neither is charging in an underground car park without appropriate fire suppression systems, and it could void your building's insurance policy as well. Number 7. Practicality and range. Unless you're able to charge at home and never use your car for long journeys, then maybe an EV might work for you. But if you can't charge at home and do need to travel long distances, you will be tied to the misery of public charging stations. Long journeys in an EV need to be planned, not around what you as the driver want to do, but around what charging stops the EV needs. Be prepared to keep young children entertained for an hour or more every couple of 100 kilometres when you have to stop to charge. Your old gas car might easily cover up to 1,000 kilometres on a single tank, cruising at very efficient freeway speeds where it's just sipping fuel, and an EV can't get anywhere near that. Oh, and EVs are the opposite of gas cars on the freeway and are less efficient, so you'll see your range drop even quicker than when pottering round town. Number 8. Comfort. Everything in an EV runs off the battery, so if you're a bit cold and you turn the heater on, that will sap your range. In a gas car it's just waste heat from the engine, but in an EV you'll have to decide, do I reach my destination or do I turn the heater on? Same with air conditioning. In an EV it's a substantial drain on the battery, but a regular gas car barely notices. Get used to freezing cold or stifling heat in your EV. And don't forget your range will plummet when it's cold and when it's hot, as the EV struggles to keep the battery cool, draining that same battery in the process. Number 9. Towing. Forget it, it'll just cut your range in half, just don't bother. Next. Number 10. Environmental impacts. You might be able to pride yourself on producing zero tailpipe emissions from your EV, but unless you're charging from the solar panels on your roof, if you have them, all you're doing is pushing those emissions back up the wire to the coal or gas-fired power station. Not only that, but to obtain all the minerals and elements for a single EV battery requires over 250 tonnes of earth to be mined, moved, refined and assembled, all of which is powered by diesel vehicles and machinery. You'll be driving your EV for many, many years before it even breaks even. But despite all that, at least you can bask in the warm glow of knowing that the cobalt in your EV's battery has probably been mined by child labour in sub-Saharan Africa. Bonus number 11. Fire risk. Well, I've got through this entire list without mentioning the elephant in the room, the risk of fire, because all the other reasons are bad enough on their own to avoid an EV. But if you're involved in an accident and the traction battery is damaged and goes into thermal runaway, you'll be subjected to extremely intense fires producing a cocktail of highly toxic gases, including hydrogen cyanide and hydrochloric acid gas. These gases will finish you off even if the fire doesn't. Let's hope your EV manufacturer has been kind enough to put some mechanical door releases on the inside as well. And as EVs become more common, you'll read of more EVs catching fire while on charge in a garage and destroying the entire house. The intensity of these fires is such that they'll spread to anything within 10 metres or more. So there we are, 10 reasons why you shouldn't buy an EV. At some point in the future this may change, but you can't escape the fact that the fundamental charging conundrum will remain. Fast charging needs masses of electricity, which is far harder to deliver, especially to rural and remote areas, than a big tank in the ground which is kept full by a regular delivery of diesel in a tanker. And if you don't have masses of electricity, you'll have slow charging. There is no avoiding this. EVs are just not a one-size-fits-all product. They may work for a small section of the population, they don't work for the vast majority. Governments have picked a winner rather than letting the market decide, and this one is already lame. EVs are like the compact fluorescent lights of the automotive world. Like EVs, they were pushed on us by governments, didn't work as well as what came before, nobody liked them, they were dangerous to your health, and eventually the market came up with a better solution anyway: LED lights. My advice has always been the same: buy a good used diesel or petrol car, maintain it well, and keep it as long as you can. It will avoid all of these problems, and you'll be doing more to save the planet than any of those virtue signalling EV drivers, that's for sure.